What's up, travelers? Welcome to my review of Air Serbia's business class service. The cheapest business class ticket to Europe? Quite possibly. We'll go over the booking process, your access to lounges, the in-flight service and amenities, and of course, the reason why you're interested in a business class ticket to Europe, the lie flat seats, so you can sleep overnight. Buckle up and let's get started. It's called business class for a reason. It's not called family class. It's cost prohibitive for families to buy 3 or 4 tickets. And because of this, we had never flown on business class on any of our flights to Europe over the years. Then, in 2021, during our trip to Europe, Lufthansa offered a business class upgrade that was so cheap we couldn't turn down. It was $500 each. Fast forward to our most recent trip to Europe this past summer. My wife wanted to see if we could score another affordable business class ticket. At the time, Google Flights didn't offer any solutions, with most business class tickets being $5,000 to $6,000. We knew spending $9,000 to $12,000 in air travel wasn't realistic, but she continued to search high and low and finally ended up at airserbia.com. It was about half the cost of the flights being presented on Google Flights. It was the cheapest business class flight to Europe. But how would it compare to a major carrier like Lufthansa? Stay tuned later in this review for the exact price and the caveats with the cheapest business class ticket that you'll have to deal with. The check-in process at JFK was flawless. Air Serbia flies out of Terminal 1 with the other international airlines. As expected, there was a dedicated business class check-in desk, so we didn't have to wait at all. We also didn't have to worry about the number of bags we had and their weights. Business class travelers on Air Serbia are allowed 2 checked bags up to 70 pounds each, so that's very generous. Once our bags were tagged, the desk attendant wrote down the name and location of a lounge that we had access to, Prime Class Lounge. Lounge access. Typically, for international flights, you have to be at the airport at least 2 hours before, and having a comfortable place to spend that time is actually kind of important. Enter the business class lounge. While amenities can vary widely at airport lounges, most offer comfortable seating, free Wi-Fi, food, snacks, and a range of beverages, including complimentary alcohol. Air Serbia's arranged access to Prime Class Lounge did not disappoint. The lounge's biggest shortcoming, however, was its size. While we had no difficulty finding seats, as it grew closer to departure time, we noticed several travelers walking around the lounge looking for places to sit, and several ended up standing in the bar overflow area. With that said, it was never crowded enough for the lounge to have to close for new customers. The lounge had plenty of snacks available, multiple coffee machines and beverage options. There was also a warm pasta dish available in the buffet, and salad options. We arrived hungry and we were able to make a meal out of the whole thing. My wife was somewhat disappointed that there wasn't a standalone protein or meat product available. The bar offered a few different complimentary beers and basic cocktails. If you wanted something more complex like a mojito, there was an upcharge. The lounge offered multiple clean family bathrooms, including a shower as well. It was well staffed and they'll come around and pick up your dishes and empty drinks. Enter the boarding process. There wasn't a dedicated business class line to board the plane. Families with young children and people with mobility issues boarded first, and then after that, the business class passengers were able to board. Once on board, you'll find this slightly unusual seating layout. Modern-day business class travelers look out for a couple things, one of them being privacy shades, and the other being unfettered access to the aisle. Air Serbia's seat layout gets about one of those things correct. The seats have no privacy shades. The Airbus 330-200 has a rather old-school business class seat layout. Solo travelers could end up with the dreaded sharing of a 2-seat combination with a stranger. Nearly all seats, except possibly 2, have direct access to the aisle without having to bother anybody. Unlike a previous business class flight on an A350, I didn't have to share a constrained footwell with a stranger. With that said, my wife and child shared the middle seats, and for this flight, the seat controls were flip-flopped or mismatched, and her seat controls controlled my son's seats and vice versa. Imagine how disastrous this would be if you were seated next to a stranger. This very odd mix-up was corrected for our flight home in the same seats. Getting your choice of seats is pretty important, as all these seats are not created equally. If you're traveling alone and want the most privacy, you'll probably want the seats 3A, 3K, and A5. With that said, none of these seats have big pull-back privacy blinds or a serious amount of privacy to begin with. These seats with this plastic table type thing do provide a quasi form of privacy. It's actually a little storage closet, but your head is shielded from the aisle. But with that added privacy, they do have a much smaller entryway into the seat compared to the other seats across the way we've seen here, where the entryway is much, much larger. The smaller entryway makes it more difficult to get in and get out of the seat, especially if the seat's not fully upright. Once you take your seat, you'll quickly notice that no one will confuse these seats as modern or new. They certainly have a fair amount of wear and tear on them. There are 2 places where you can adjust your seat. I quickly noticed that the massage feature did not work. It's also worth noting that in the lie flat mode, it was very easy to unintentionally trigger the seat movement buttons on the lower panel. In-flight comfort and amenities. Pre-flight service was limited to water or juice. No champagne here. Amenities provided to each seat include a large blanket, a pillow, and a large bottle of water. Oddly, on the dinner menu, it states, "For your comfort, we've prepared a sleeping set that contains pajamas and slippers," which were not included, and a sleeper seat cover, also not included. They also include the proverbial amenity kit. It includes everything you would expect it to include: eye shades, a dental kit, earplugs, lip balm. They all come in this little case that looks like it should be a headphone case, but it's not. Speaking of headphones, Air Serbia's business class seats do not offer noise-canceling headphones. You will receive this run-of-the-mill Radio Shack-style headphone set, which is capable. While the seats were worn and dated, they were very comfortable, with ample leg room. As a 6-foot individual, I could easily reach my feet out and not reach the end of the footroom space. And they didn't curtail a dramatic amount, getting more narrow as your foot space comes to an end. So that was nice. With that said, as a larger person, when I reclined in the lay flat mode laying on my back, my shoulders did feel constrained on each side, something that doesn't exist at all when the seat's in a more upright position. But when lying flat and slightly constrained, add in wearing the eye covers and earplugs, I quickly began to feel claustrophobic, like I was lying in a coffin. You can kind of sleep on your side, but you still kind of feel constrained with the edges of your seat. The whole purpose of a business class ticket and paying this price is so that you are able to sleep. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to sleep very much at all, but I won't blame that on the seat. I'll blame that mostly on me. My wife and child had no difficulty sleeping. And if you're a fan of lie flat seats, hit that thumbs up button. The dining experience. After takeoff, you are presented with some warm nuts and offered a beverage of your choice. I decided to try the Serbian Spirits Rakia. For starters, I chose the smoked salmon with dill and blanched asparagus. This was fresh and delicious. For the main course, I chose beef with creamy polenta, sauteed broccoli, and grilled zucchini. The beef was extremely dry and tough to eat, while everything else on the plate was delicious. There was a grilled cod dish and also a vegetarian pasta dish. For dessert, there was a chocolate tartlet with fruit, which was very good. My wife was served gluten-free desserts, which she also enjoyed. Second meal, which is served before landing, on the way over is breakfast, and I had a nice omelet with chicken sausage, grilled asparagus, mushrooms with parsley and cherry tomato. You could also order pancakes or yogurt and granola and berries, and a more continental breakfast of a croissant, fresh fruit, and a cookie. On the flight back, you have a slightly stepped-up menu. For starters, I chose the Serbian meze. It was a nice plate of meats and cheeses. A vegetarian Greek salad is also available. The main course, I was hoping for better results with my steak option. This time I chose the filet mignon, mushroom sauce, sauteed broccoli, and fried potatoes. Again, this meat was so dry, very tough, and nearly inedible. All the while, everything else on the plate was delicious. Also available for the main course was a vegetarian lasagna or a chicken cordon bleu steak, tartar sauce, pea puree, and caramelized carrots. My wife prearranged a gluten-free dish, which was a chicken dish, which she really enjoyed. Dessert was a tasty Moscow cake, and the second meal was a vegetarian gnocchi dish. White chocolate cake, seasonal fruit, and a selection of cookies was also available. For our flight to Europe, our final destination was Budapest, and we had a 2-hour and 50-minute layover in Belgrade, Air Serbia's home hub and headquarters, which meant that they had their own business class lounge. And this was arguably a step up from the prime class lounge. Certainly it had more food options and beverage options. It had multiple types of hot breakfast options, cans of soda and water available to take, as well as a full-service complimentary bar. Unfortunately, like the prime class lounge at JFK, it did tend to get overcrowded at certain times. We didn't notice this on our way over to Europe, but on the way back, it did affect us. There wasn't enough seating in the eating area to sit down. Ultimately, we took our meal to the other side of the lounge, which is more of a loungy side of the lounge, and ate there. In-flight entertainment. The in-flight entertainment on Air Serbia has its little quirks as well. The good news is that they don't charge for the Wi-Fi. The bad news is that there is no Wi-Fi. With no Wi-Fi means no live TV, but I did find there to be an acceptable amount of on-demand movies and TV shows. The TV screen itself is big enough. There was international movies as well as you would expect, Serbian movies and TV shows. I had loaded up an iPad with a bunch of downloaded entertainment from Netflix and Max, but ended up not watching any of it because I was satisfied with the on-demand offerings. The seat does include a multifunction power outlet for laptops. You can use a European plug or a United States plug. It also includes one USB-A type port. As previously mentioned, the business class experience does not include noise-canceling headphones. While the headphones supplied are comfortable and loud enough to cut through the engine noise, they are oddly protected by the flight staff. On both of our flights, coming and going, the service attendants would come by to collect these plastic headphones about 20 or 30 minutes prior to landing, cutting off your entertainment for most passengers long before they unbuckle. Fortunately for me, I had in my backpack a throwaway pair of hop-on, hop-off bus headphones that were able to do the trick and allowed me to continue to watch until we landed. Service quality and the crew. All the crew members we interacted with were outstanding, extremely friendly, and were skilled at their jobs. It appeared there were about 4 or 5 crew members servicing the business class area. And where I was sitting, I felt like I interacted with most of them. One of them took my order, another served the warm towel and nuts at the beginning of the flight, and others delivered the food and poured drinks. It looked like a well-coordinated service machine. Unfortunately, 1 or 2 things fell through the cracks. At the beginning of the first flight, I wanted to try the Serbian brandy, rakia, and it was never actually delivered to me. By the time dinner was delivered, still without a drink, I had to ask for a glass of wine. The food orders for the different courses are placed all at the same time at the beginning of the flight. When the main courses were being served, it seemed to me as if it was a completely random delivery of the food. I was one of the last people to receive my dinner. 5 or 10 minutes after my wife and child received their food, and we were in the same row. My wife explained that they delivered the meals starting in the back of business class and ending in the front. However, it wasn't done in a consistent fashion. Also, my wife wanted to order the steak for our son, and unfortunately, they ran out. They did do a good job of accommodating her gluten allergy, and she had a very enjoyable chicken dish. We had a different crew for the return flight back to the States, and there was no issues with the meal service or drink orders. Other than these 2 small mishaps, the service was quite excellent. It is now time to crunch the numbers in the Sol Tropical Air Serbian Business Class Review, as I like to call the Sol Score. Where the lounge, the seat, the food and drink, the service, the in-flight entertainment, and the all-important value get rated from 1 to 5. The lounges. We thoroughly enjoyed access to both lounges. Did need to be noted that both of them were a bit small and could get crowded at peak times. It didn't really affect us that much at all, but it needs to be noted. One aspect of the lounge access was a little bit of a surprise. On your flight to Europe, we were able to stay in 2 different lounges, one departing JFK and then one during the layover at Belgrade. On the way back, we did not have access to the lounge departing Budapest. Apparently that's because it's not a business class flight, which it wasn't, even though it was a business class ticket. Once at Belgrade, we did have access to the lounge again for our trip to JFK. We enjoyed both lounges, but with less lounge access on the return flight, it receives 3.5 out of 5. The business class lie flat seats. While no one will confuse them as being ultra modern, they are quite comfortable. All the seats do lack modern privacy shades. The tightness in the shoulders when in the lie flat position needs to be noted, as well as the size of the entryway and exitway into the aisle on certain seats. The seats come away with a 3.5 score as well. The service. A super capable and friendly crew, very attentive. A few things fell through the cracks, 4 points here. Food and drink. The food and drink was fantastic, with two major exceptions. The main course steaks on both flights coming and going were unacceptably bad, 3.5 points. In-flight entertainment. Keeping you entertained is all that matters, not the total number of movies. The screen size is good. I would give it 5 out of 5, but without Wi-Fi, we end up at 4. The value of Air Serbian business class. The Air Serbia business class experience wasn't perfect. It had its little moments of being rough around the edges, but it was so much of a better experience than any economy class seat to Europe. And it compared very nicely to the Lufthansa business class flight we traveled with in the past. The fit and finish, or the polish, if you will, of the Lufthansa experience was a little more refined, but I didn't feel like Air Serbian business class was a class below the Lufthansa experience. And it was a fraction of the cost of the major carriers. Air Serbia's business class ticket is an excellent value. 5 out of 5 here, for a grand total of 23.5 points out of 30. When reviewing something, one of the most important factors is, will you do it again? Will you go back to that restaurant? Will you purchase tickets on Air Serbia's business class again? As long as the price and value stay the same, yes, we will be flying on Air Serbia again. Earlier in this review, I said I'd tell you the price and two big caveats. When we began our search, business class seats on the traditional carriers were $4,000, $5,000, and $6,000 for a round-trip ticket to Budapest. This was a non-starter, but in the end, through Air Serbia, we were able to purchase 3 round-trip tickets for $6,600. Now for the first caveat, the number of flights. At the time of our summer 2024 flight, Air Serbia had only 2 A330 wide-body jets, and only one of them was servicing New York. Fewer flights means it's less likely you'll be able to book with Air Serbia. And the second caveat is,
ladies and gentlemen,
unless your vacation is to beautiful Belgrade, Serbia, there is not any direct flights. All the flights from New York go to Belgrade. However, they offer service to most popular European destinations. Paris, Barcelona, Moscow. I hear it's nice this time of year. Ultimately, no direct flights on Air Serbia. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Thank you for watching this far. If you'd like to see more air travel related reviews on this YouTube channel, Soul Tropical, please let me know in the comments below. Also, if you could do me a favor, it costs nothing to you, just hit the like button and the subscribe button. And since I don't make videos all the time, you probably want to hit the notification bell so you do know when a new one comes out. And now would be a great time to click here and watch one of my other videos. Maybe it's about a European cruise.